Yeah.
All right, so good morning, guys. Welcome to fourth period. As you guys know, you guys are taking the regents in 7 days. So actually, no, less than that. You guys are taking it next Friday. So we're still doing regents prep. Today, we're going over the unit evolution. All right, who can tell me what evolution is? Go ahead, Jeremy.
Evolution is the process of something changing over time.
Changing over time. Beautiful, right? And what's an example of evolution? Something we talk about a lot.
An example of evolution is an animal adapting to an environment.
Beautiful, yeah. So actually, the example I was looking for was the birds and finches, but if that is definitely, it happens with different animals all the time. So today we're gonna be going over material. Students will follow along in the one-page wonder, which I just handed to you guys. Students will fill in the blanks in the worksheet, and they will participate for check for understandings. After we go over it, I got another packet here with some do now questions, regents-based questions that you guys can fill in. If you get them all right, you get 100 for today. If not, we'll go over it and talk about it, all right? So, what's evolution? Like Jeremy just said, evolution is organisms slowly change over time, and different species and different organisms develop. In this picture, what do we see in this picture, guys?
Monkeys.
You see monkeys, and then what happens to the monkeys?
They slowly progress into being a normal human.
Right, so over time, it is a theory that humans evolved from monkeys, meaning that monkeys started to stand up straight, they started to get long, they started to get taller, they ended up losing their tail, and then by today they became man, all right? That's just a very broad theory, but we're gonna get some more details now. Variation. Variation is the differences along individuals in species, sexual organisms that have more variation. Adaptation is the physical or behavioral characteristics. Adaptations help individuals compete. Does this look familiar for you guys? What's this?
The birds and the finches.
The birds and the finches, right? We did an experiment on that. And what was the experiment proving? What did we do in the experiment? Who remembers?
That only certain birds can do certain things.
Only certain birds do certain things. Specifically what? What were we using the
beak sizes.
the
with
beak sizes,
fins.
right? And what determines the beak sizes?
The seeds they eat.
The seeds is one thing, but who can give me another thing that determines their beak sizes?
Their environment.
Their environment, right? So when we think about natural selection, the natural force is the environment, because the environment is going to cause or is going to provide the kind of foods that's available, right? So we talked about it also with the tortoises, right? And the tortoises in the Galapagos Islands, depending on what kind of food was available. If it was on the grass, the turtles had very short necks and short legs, and they ate close to the ground. But if their food was up on bushes, you know, Darwin noticed that the tortoises that were in the other different islands with the bushes, their necks were long because they had to reach up, and after a long time, their necks grew, all right? So, let me go back to this because this is what we're gonna be highlighting on, and I don't have my pen, so give me 1 second while I get that. Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Getting the pen so I can write on this. Thank you, Mr. Lowe. So, when we look at this wheel, right, and we're talking about what kind of foods they eat and what kind of beaks they have, what are we first looking at when we look at this wheel? If you don't remember, that's fine. I can remind you. Why is it not working? Okay, here we go. So when we look at this wheel, the first thing we want to look at is the middle, right? The middle is going to dictate what kind of foods they eat. Who could tell me the choices? Can't see, that's fine. Oh, I see that looking, that's, yeah. So we have mainly plant food. Who could tell me how many of these birds eat mainly plant food? 6, right? And how do you determine that?
When it says on the chart, mainly plant food.
The chart says mainly plant food, right? But we're starting from where and ending where are the plant eaters?
Cactus finch.
The
all
cactus
way
finch?
to the vegetarian finch.
All the way to the vegetarian fish, right? Because that's what the inside is showing, right? The lines cut off at vegetarian fish and are open all the way to cactus fish. So, I mean cactus finch. How many birds are 100% animal food eaters?
3.
3, right? Mainly food eaters, and who are those?
Large tree finch, the small tree finch, and the woodpecker finch.
Right, so that's these 3 right here, right? So again, based on the middle that we see, what it says is that's what they eat, right? And then we have one 100% animal food eater, and what's the name of that? Somebody else besides Jeremy. I appreciate the participation, but I'm trying to get everybody else. Kevin, what? The wobbler fish, that's correct, right? So this right here will help you determine or read the chart so that you know what they eat, okay? Now that we know what, we look at the center, what they eat, what's the next thing you're looking at on the chart? So we looked at the center of the circle, this is 1. I'm gonna say the next circle is 2, and then the outer circle of that is 3. So the first layer of the circle is mainly plant food. The second layer of the circle is bills. So how many different type of bills are there on this chart?
3.
I see Louis holding 3. So yeah, you're right. So it's crushing bills, grasping bills, and probing bills, all right? And then what's the third layer say? What do we talk? We're gonna talk about the bills, and then what else we talk about?
Guiding tips.
The tips, okay? So we have what they eat, what their bills look like, and then what their tips look like, okay? So remember that as we move forward. Cool. Competition. Everybody knows what competition is in this room. What's a competition, guys? What's a competition? If 2 people are competing, what are they doing?
Competing. Trying to get the most of something.
Trying to get the most, trying to win. There's a winner and a loser, right? So how does competition affect animals? What are things that animals compete over?
Food. Resources.
Resources.
Water.
Water is a resource, right?
Shelter.
Shelter, habitat, good job, right? And what happens if 2 birds have the same niche? What's a niche? A job. So what happens if 2 birds have the same job?
They work together.
You think they work together? You think birds in the outside are working together? They're gonna fight. If 2 birds are trying to eat this one seed on the floor, they're gonna fight, and it's survival of the fittest, right? So this is an example of the lab we did. We have the pliers, we have the tweezers, and the clothing pin. All of these would react differently to picking up the foods, right? Those are representations of different beaks. And here's a check for understanding. Which statement describes an effect of natural selection on a species? 1, it favors the survival of certain members of the species and results in a change in the proportion of the individuals with highly adaptive traits. That's a lot of words, guys. That's a lot of words. It provides feedback mechanisms for members of a species and results in a change in a proportion of individuals with homeostatic controls. It leads to the reproduction with other species, increasing the number of different adaptations, or it increases the competition between population that occupy different niches, increasing the chance of extinction of the less adaptive species. So which one do you think is the answer here? Which statement is the best effect of natural selection? I know it's a lot of words. 2? You think 3? All right, so raise your hand if you think 3. No one. Does anybody else have a different answer? All right, so who can tell me which one it's not? Let's try that, because one of these is super wrong. Again, natural selection is the passing down of favorable traits. So which one of these talks about traits or talks about favorable traits? So I see species in 1. I see traits in 1, and I don't see traits in any other ones, right? So in the regions, when they talk about natural selection, try to look for an answer that has traits in it. I'm almost 100% sure the answer is 1. So let's check. See how we did that? Good job. We didn't have to read all those other words. We just saw favorable traits, and we know that was the answer. All right. So natural selection is the mechanism of evolution. Organisms with the most fit adaptation for the environment survive. That just means, like, for example, in this picture, if there's food up really high on the branch, who's going to survive? The giraffe with the small necks, the giraffe with the long necks? The long necks, right? So they could reach the food. And then finches, example, the finches with large beaks were able to adapt and to eat more seeds. As we did in the experiment. And then here's another one. This is a picture of the finches eating the green birds. Yum, green beetles, our favorite. And then after they kept eating the green beetles, you notice that the number of beetles, what happens to the number of green beetles? It starts to decrease, right? And then at the end, what kind of beetles are left? The orange ones. Remember what we did with the moths? With the moths in the Industrial Revolution? What happened? Which trait was favorable? Was it the black moths or the white moths? The white ones, right? And then the soot happened, and the trees got black, right? And then what happened? What was favorable then? The black ones, right? It was harder to see, so they were able to survive. So it's the same example of that. Sexual selection: organisms choose mates based on physical traits that don't necessarily help them survive. Individuals with more reproductive success pass on the variations. An example is peacocks, right? The peacocks very slowly, large showy feathers that make the bird slower and more visible to predators. However, males with the most impressive tails have the most reproductive success. So meaning, even though this trait gets them hunted more because it makes them bigger and slower, this is what helps them reproduce at the same time. So it's kind of like a conflict of interest. All right, check for understanding. Which statement is best supported by the theory of evolution? Can someone read number 1 for me? Jeremy.
Genetic alteration occur every time cell reproduction occurs.
Okay. Can someone read number 2 for me? Someone different? Anyone? Going once? Going twice? No problem, I'll do it. The fossil records provide samples of every organism that ever lived. 3, populations that have adventurous characteristics will increase in number. Few organisms survive when the environment remains the same. So which one of these you think is the best answer that supports the theory? 2, fossil record provides samples of every organism that lived. All right, I'll take that. Genetic alterations occur every time a cell reproduction occurs. That's wrong. Populations that have adventurous characteristics will increase in number. That's wrong as well. Few organisms survive and the environment remains the same. So I think you're right, Josh. I think the best answer is number 2. So let's check. So it's actually 3. So populations that have adventurous characteristics will increase. Advantages will increase in number. So had I read that correct the first time, that would have given me the answer. So thank you for catching that. So meaning the advantages are long necks, the color of their bird, the color of their skin that allows them to camouflage. Those are advantages that outweigh, that will increase the number. And then extinction, we know what extinction is, right? What's extinction, Chloe?
I can't see.
Because you don't have your glasses on. So what's the picture of?
Dinosaurs.
And what happened to the dinosaurs?
They went extinct.
Right. And what does extinct mean?
They all died.
They all died. They're no longer here. And then we have genetic diversity, the number of different genetic characteristics in species. With more diversity, a species has a greater chance of evolution and survival. What's up?
Some dinosaurs are still alive.
Some dinosaurs still alive. When you find one, let me know.
Crocodile.
All right, those are the ancestors, but that's what we're talking to this one right here. This is the common ancestor. Common ancestor is they all have the same, they all evolved from this animal here. So the camel, the pig, the hippo, the whale, the deer, and the cow all evolved from this animal. But how do we know that? Who is mostly closely related? We went through this one time. How do we know who's most closely related? Matthew, you look like you want to answer. When the lines are straight. So who's more closely related?
Cow.
The pig to the camel or the hippo to the whale? The hippo to the whale, right? Because you see it here. Their connection is closer. Now who's more related? The deer to the whale or the pig to the camel?
Pig to camel.
Okay, so the pig and the camel, they're down here. The pig, the whale, and the deer are right here. So who? Let's try it again. The deer to the whale more closely related, all right? So remember that. The closer the intersection is, the closer they are in ancestry. All right? This is the last check for understanding. Which statement concerning the evolution of species A, B, C, and D, and E is supported by the diagram below? So what do we see in the diagram? We see something was here, and then as it started moving up to the present, they started branching off, right? So species B and C can be found in today's environment. Species C and B can be found today. Is that true?
Yes.
That's true. Okay. Species. Let's check the other one. Species A and D evolved from E. A and D evolved from E. Is that true? I would say that's incorrect because E's over here. This is something else. All right. So we could take that one out. Species A and C can still be interbreeded. A and C. Can A and C be interbreeded? Nope. Species A, B, and E all evolved from a common ancestor and all successful today. So again, this is the past, and B and C are today. So is that true? No. So I think the best answer here is 1. Let's see. Good job, guys. All right. So this is the lesson for today. Now I'd like you guys to answer these questions in the packet and let me know how it goes. All right.